welcome to the SuperWorld show. We're back again. I'm here with Rich Latlakar. I am Nate McCrory, and our special guest, VESA, today is with us. He is dressed as a wizard, but it's not to be taken lightly. This actually has a good cause behind it. So we're going to get into that in just a second. I'm excited to be here. And hey, guys, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, good to be with you both. As always, good to be with you, Frisch. I mean, you're doing such incredible things with the SuperWorld thing, and I'm such a fan of the platform.
Thank you.
And we're building things together. It's a blessing. I truly love your thing of what you're doing, and I can't wait to show the world of what we will eventually launch to the world. And same for you, Nathan. Love is the answer. I've been following your crypto journey and the incredible works that you do and the love you bring to the space. So it's really fun to be around with you guys. It's like, I would say this is to be taken half seriously, some with fun and some half LARPing, but there is a point to it, and we can get to that in a bit. But just to initially say, good to be with both of you.
Yeah, it's great
Thanks,
to be
man.
here with you.
Yeah, I love you, man. You're amazing. We're excited. You always bring an energy to every interaction, dude. I feel it, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I've seen you on a lot of other things. You always have a good creative energy too, obviously. You're an incredible artist. And, and that's the other thing. It's not the only reason we brought you here, just your art. Like, you're doing a lot of cool things in SuperWorld, but you're also an amazing human being, and it shows through in your creative work. And, we just really appreciate you. So more than anything, we just wanted to pay tribute and just have you on and say we love you. So it's great to have you here. I guess we'll just start with, what you're kind of dressed up for here. You're kind of telling us about an exciting project that you got going on, huh?
Oh, that old thing.
That old thing. I think we didn't notice. Like, we were just going to ignore that.
Yeah, it's just, I would have skipped it if you wouldn't have brought it up.
I just have to keep bringing it up.
Well, it's a funny thing. We're going to get to the bigger side of it, I suppose, but how to foundationally, I got introduced to Mr. Blue Wizard, who's the wax whale, via the Bad Crypto podcast guys, and he kindly asked me to do a commission for him, and I thought, what would be the cool way to do something new that this studio has now been built and it's operational. So the first shoot that we did here up against the green screen was me playing a blue wizard. I mean, that's the beauty of technology, that this cape is not exactly blue, but we can make it so in post-production. And we're going to tell a small story about the blue wizard in a way that I played the wizard, but you won't be seeing my face or, anything like that. I painted my hands blue, and I have no idea what's going to come out of that, but I think it'll be cool because of the team that we put together in order to do this whole thing. But the point of why I wanted to kind of dress up as a wizard, I mean, it's fun to begin with, but there is a slightly serious undertone to it, which is something that I realized today earlier on being in the studio. And maybe if I walk you through this place a little bit to begin with. Oh, sorry.
Please,
Sorry.
It's all good.
Okay. So,
yeah, this place is
This
beautiful.
is the studio, right? What is the name of the place? Are you calling it a certain name or?
Portal.
Portal. That's awesome.
Nice.
So the entrance is not yet done, so I can't show you around that thing. But essentially, I started making digital art 12 years ago. So my works have been high-resolution digital originals for a long time now. So I've been waiting for this NFT movement and hodling about 350 digital originals for 12 years or more at this point. And what you see around you in this place, even as the floor piece, is a digital original. And it's not yet minted as an NFT, but it will soon be. But the point of this whole space is that you get to come in here through the entrance that has augmented reality art pieces, as well as these big art pieces that take you into the circle, in which then you can point your mobile phone into this piece in particular, and it becomes a live storytelling piece.
Wow.
You can then sort of put on these virtual reality goggles from this table here and go onto the art couch. So essentially this piece that is behind me has been turned into a couch, and then you sort of put on these VR goggles and you get to go and experience that same art piece made as 50 million voxels with this German other artist that we've been working with. And you get to buy the art both in physical as well as digital form, because this is actually housed inside of a big printing factory that does these things. So we get to create the whole works here and then ship it all over the world. Either it's in digital form or then it's in physical form. And this is the green screen studio area where we were doing this wizard shoot just a while ago. And we're expecting Brittany Kaiser to be the first international guest for the famous Cambridge Analytica whistleblower to come in, so that we can turn her life story and the idea about digital ownership and digital rights into these mind-blowing NFTs. So this is effectively the world's first NFT production house. And it's an all ingrained sort of experience and an avenue to ship this art to the world on an international scale. And I can't tell you how exciting that whole thing is. And a lot of the technology is not yet here. Like, for example, this podcast table that is a custom piece that was made as an art piece for Tone Vase earlier is now transformed into a table that will house 4 microphones from which we're going to be talking about value, about art, about Bitcoin, about all these incredible things that we're all excited about. And now I kind of wanted to come to the point that is half serious about, or somewhat serious about, the wizard costume. Obviously, I'm not serious about LARPing, but I don't know how many of you, or if you guys have seen this movie called Unbreakable. It's a little bit older, but it's with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson.
I have.
Absolutely.
I think Mr. Glass became a film a little bit more recently about the character of Samuel L. Jackson as well. But what he says in that movie I thought was profound, because he says that cartoon characters are kind of exaggerated versions of the real thing. That there is let's say our friendship here of what we're starting to talk about is what Nikola Tesla said, is that if you want to know how the world works or the secrets of the universe or something, he said, think in terms of vibrancy, frequency, and energy. And the reason why all of us get along so well is that we're pretty much on the same page, right? Good vibes and that kind of a thing. So if there is a superhero frequency, if there's something that is not a cartoon, but I realized a day ago that this was a dream of mine 12 years ago, to have a catalog of this art once I started creating this, to have this kind of a space where I can create it from. And at that time, even though there was nothing around me, there was no resources, there was no connections, there were none of these conversations that we I made a new partnership right before this podcast that I can't say. I told Rish already, but it's incredibly exciting to take the technology of this place to the next level. But what I'm saying very seriously, if you're an up-and-coming artist, you're someone who thinks about doing something creative, or whatever it is that you're dreaming about, your business, in your case, the SuperWorld, it's doable. I'm living proof. I had no idea I was capable of doing this, but here it is.
Yeah.
Now I can take the wizard costume out because this is hella hot.
You're done. I bet it's crazy hot in that thing. Yeah, that's the power of manifestation that a lot of people don't realize, is that it's a real thing, and it'll hit you kind of after the fact too, like when you don't realize that you're doing it. A lot of times we look back and we're like, oh wow, this is a dream that I had, or a vision I had back then, and it is in some ways seamlessly interwoven itself into my day-to-day life when I didn't even notice it was happening. So it's incredible how these things just kind of weave together. We don't realize it sometimes.
Yeah, I love that book, The Alchemist, which I read, many years ago, but it's all about kind of finding what's in your heart, and then the universe will conspire to, help you if you are aligned with that. And if you kind of go towards whatever that is that you're meant to do or that you want to do very passionately. So yeah, I totally agree with that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And that's the thing too. Like, what do you think drove you to that initial dream? Like, what is the thing that sets you on this kind of path, so to speak, as an artist?
Um, well, I think I was born with that kind of like fiery desire for it, because I remember like the first creative moment that I can recall is that I was about 5 years old, and there were no other tools around me, but there was my parents' pots and pans in the kitchen, and these wooden spatulas, and they became an amazing drum set. And I thought I was incredible, but I'm sure I gave my parents a bunch of headaches. So they weren't too enthused about getting me an actual drum kit. But I remember that I felt like that spirit was in me. That's what I recognized it a little bit later. But that's what it is that if you don't have the resources, if you don't have some things, some people tend to just see obstacles, and some people tend to see solutions. And if you're a solutions-oriented person and you fight hard enough, because it has been an incredibly difficult journey. It's claimed my life nearly a couple of times, and I'm not making light of the amount of pain that it has been in order to get here. But that's what feels so incredibly good about this moment right now, to be here with you guys and have this revelation just like yesterday, and then get to share it via this technology. I mean, we're all over the world, but in the same room and in the same frequency at the same time. And it's a pretty incredible thing.
Well, I have a question. What kind of, like, you mentioned that things get hard, and, as any person that wants to start something realizes, especially things that you're creating, which no one's ever even imagined before. Just curious, what kind of drives you? Like, what keeps you going? What is that why that you're excited about on a daily basis?
It's a multifaceted question, I would say. It's a fantastic question, but it's a fantastically difficult one to really answer. But I suppose there's things that on a level or another, I at least want to leave this body in a way that I didn't make the world worse for having been here. In some way, that seems like a low bar, but if there was some improvement that I could be excited about as I'm doing it and feel like I'm doing something that hasn't been done before, I think that is one driving factor. If it has utility to other people, if I can derive meaning from making it, because I think that's one of the great plagues of our time right now, and why I'm also so happy that Nathan has come into the cryptosphere, is that you're spreading this unapologetic sort of enthusiasm about things, and showing your love for the world and the things that you're excited about. And I think the art world and the creative world sort of lost the ability to be that. It's sort of been this snarky, cool, ironic, strange beast for such a long time. And I think this is all in parallel with the sort of fiat world coming to an end, and we discover value again via Bitcoin. We can start to put value on digital creativity. We can, because NFTs essentially are a liberation of a whole creative class of people. That's what I kind of started saying in my keynotes about a year ago or so, when it really landed on me that you can be a designer, you can be a drummer, you can be a classical tap dancer, and sort of record yourself on VR and upload it to OpenSea and get paid. And it sort of liberates you from, like, I tried to make it in the classical art world, and I felt like I was a round thing trying to get into a square thing. It just didn't work out. And anything that I wanted to innovate or be enthusiastic about, they sort of shut down, closed the doors, or pulled the carpet from under me, no matter what I tried to do. So it was an incredibly nihilistic space. So when crypto art came along, it was like a super highway opened up, and all of a sudden I found I was amidst people who were who wanted to innovate, who wanted to make the world a better place, but they also had resources. They were entrepreneurial. Some people really knew how to organize things. It's like this whole circle of multivariate and multi-skilled polymaths, essentially, kind of congregated together to start making things. And they were unapologetic about it and saying very, very tough things that you couldn't say on mainstream media and things like that. And I just felt at home immediately.
Yeah,
maybe that's a long answer, but
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's accepted a lot of people that, you know, I mean, I haven't been in this art world as long as you have, but like I've attempted to pursue the typical path in art, you know, where you're getting your stuff into galleries and kind of getting your name out there in that way, sort of boots on the ground effort. And it's very tough. There's a lot of rejection. And there's just a lot of games being played in that world too, to kind of prop people up that maybe have paid their dues, but maybe they're not, I don't want to say the best artists because it's so subjective, but you know, it's a lot of ways nothing new, nothing exciting. And I think what's cool about crypto art and NFT art is it allows for that new and exciting thing, that cream to come to the top a little bit. The people that were ignored, you know, that where we don't have a place to fit in, like you were saying, like we've created our own place. This world allows you to create your own place. That's the other thing about SuperWorld that attracted me as an artist. Like we're talking about places to fit in. Like SuperWorld allows you to just create the place that you want. We don't have to kind of wait for it or hope people allow us to do it. It's like with what you're doing with your studio, you're doing what you want to do as an artist, and we get to see your soul. You know, if you're drumming on pots and pans, or you're painting, or you're creating a digital piece, it's all the same thing. Like you're just giving people different ways to look at your soul. Essentially, these are different windows to view you from. And I'm just appreciative of like what you're doing with this, because it's going to open up a lot of minds. It's already opened up my mind. I consider myself creative, but I see what you're doing, and it's taking my thoughts to even a different place now. So I also want to say thank you for that, just as an artist.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, you're providing an energy into the world that I think is inspiring so many creators, right? Whether they're digital artists or musicians or, you know, scientists, it just you're breaking ground and showing people that it can be done.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's not done in a way that's like typical either. It's so just you, like it's organized, but in your way, you know, and that's what I think is beautiful about it.
Thank you so much for the both of you. It really does. Like I never, like, I don't ever take any of these kinds of works for granted. And I remember the times when such things weren't said, and there was no money on the account. There was food insecurity, and there was lots of wondering if I'd made all the wrong choices and fucked up my life, essentially investing everything into this, and things weren't looking like they were going anywhere. Even after when I made the Vina Malik project, we reached a lot of people, and it was a very intellectually and impactful and sort of credible project. But even after that, I thought that this was finally the moment that I'm going to be breaking through. But it turns out that politics and movements and different sort of frames to stories and those kinds of things actually spiraled me into the worst position that I'd ever been in my life, and the most poverty that I'd experienced. And it was a very strange thing, because I felt like I'd risen to the top of the mountain and I'd taken on the heavyweight type of and gotten the belt. But once I got the belt, no one cared, and no one bought the works. Nothing went forward. And then I found myself living in a very, very humble lodging that had mold in it, and I got asthma, and there was no prospects, and nothing was going forward. And I was just really questioning whether the universe is a very just place, or if God exists, and whether he hates me quite a lot, actually. And there were things like that. So, but after that dip, then came crypto art. And I think those kinds of things put it all into perspective. And then being in the sphere of the likes of you guys, and being able to build with SuperWorld, and I'm able to be myself and not constantly rejected for the thing that I thought was pretty magic, is something that I will cherish for the rest of my breaths, truly.
No, that's cool. I think that you kind of described what a lot of artists have been through that kind of makes a good artist. That pain, you can create beautiful things from a happy place, but something interesting is created in that place of pain. It's that contrast that adds to the bright. It's just a beautiful thing to allow something good to come from that struggle. I think a lot of times we feel like we've reached the pinnacle, and then we realize, we sit around and wait for a few weeks, like, oh, well, nothing's actually happened. And it's almost like life is, or the universe, whatever you believe in, God is just pushing you and going like, that's not good enough. I want more. Push further, further, further. And that's what that is. It's like this, there is no mercy, but in a good way. It's for our benefit. And if we can handle it, we get to the other side and we see how beautiful that darkness actually is.
It forces you
to, really.
Yeah, it forces you to even question yourself, as you said, and then determine how badly you want it, and what you're willing to do and what you're willing to sacrifice, and again, question your decisions potentially. And then that's when you're kind of growing, I guess, right? That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like weight on the bar, like you're exercising, and it's like it's tough. You might pop a muscle, you might pull something, but if you keep pushing, like you're gonna get that thing up there. And next thing you know, it's easy in a few weeks, and you're just adding weight to the bar, trying to challenge yourself all of a sudden for sport. And like a lot of these common tasks become so easy. Like I remember just talking on a podcast used to be so nerve-wracking. And now I forget that we're recording a lot of times. And that's how it is with life. Like you'll forget that you're even in a battle sometimes because you've kind of done it so much. And and that's almost when you realize, I think a lot of us have maybe done this recently, like you start to take on some struggle because we go like, all right, I need more growth. Things are getting easy. And I think a lot of us creatives, we put ourselves in tough spots on purpose because we subconsciously remember that that's what got us here.
There was this incredible guy called Dr. John DeMartini that sort of was provided kindly by the universe as a guide, as well as another friend of mine who's an NLP master trainer. And basically they hold two different courses at the same time. I was at the verge of a sort of burnout and really questioning things, and I was able to fly with a sponsorship to my friend's course in Spain, and he taught me how to love structure, because I'd always imagined myself as a non-structured person, and he sort of helped me identify the process of creativity that I did subconsciously. And the problem that I had was that I had an identity of an unstructured person. Therefore, I didn't like structure. But once he brought it to me clearly that you actually utilize structure quite a bit, not only did I fall in love with structure as a helping, guiding force, but I started seeing structure as a positive force in society altogether. And then on the other hand, quite fast after that, Dr. John DeMartini came along. He came to London to hold a seminar, and I didn't have money to pay for him for the course. And I just showed up at a sort of pre-sale event, and I just went to him and I showed my art on an iPad. And I said, hey, listen, man, I don't have money to pay for your £2,500 course, but I could make some art for you. And he was like, yeah, this is pretty amazing. And he saw the things that I'd done before. He was like, yeah, cool, make me a painting. And I was able to go in. And then he during this 2-day course, which was really, really intense, and both of them were like 16, 18-hour days or something like that, he sort of took you through the scientific process where he says that if you have a lot of emotions like negative and positive go back and forth like this, that means you're in a low resonance because the resonance is made by a high swing. But if you're in your purpose and you've imagined the greatness you want to achieve and the things you want to do, the less the pendulum swing of negative and positive will be, and essentially it will be like very, very close to the center, and that means you're in high vibration. And so it was the purpose that gets you to out of the swing in a certain kind of way. And then the other point that made a big impact is that he drew this circle, and I can't remember exactly what the 7 things were, but he sliced life into 7 things. And one was your spirituality, one's your philosophy, one's your relationships, one's your money and career, one's your physical health, and something else. So essentially he said that you need to, as a human being, master all of those segments of life to a relative degree, because we all know a miserable rich fuck, essentially. So money won't provide you happiness out of these things. And he said that some people have maybe mastered their philosophy and their relationships, but because they haven't taken their health seriously, life has to come in a form of a disaster to manage it for you. So you pay attention to that part. So you also dedicate time and resources for that part, so that you can then sustain the whole circle of life in that kind of a way. And those things, both of those courses were really the thing that pulled me out of a very dark place, and I was able to again start structuring myself in a different kind of way. And then I went for a coffee with a friend of mine who introduced me to Bitcoin and the current state of it all, and then it was just a rocket ship.
Straight to the moon, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible. It's funny, one thing you said there that spoke to me as an artist especially was you said, I'll paint something for you. Like, that's how I think a lot of young artists should know. That's how I've gotten a lot of opportunities. That's how a lot of people like you have gotten opportunities. It's good to put it out there sometimes and not be cocky about it and think, oh, my stuff's worth so much, I don't want to trade it for this ticket to a thing. Like, you know what I mean? I've opened a lot of doors by just giving artwork to people. It's kind of crazy. It's a beautiful thing. We want it to be out there, but we don't give it away. But Rich talks a lot about frameworks, and you're talking about structure. And I thought that was kind of an interesting connection I made there.
Yeah. No, totally agree with all of that. I mean, I loved hearing that story that you told about the pendulum, and how, if you do find your purpose, you are able to kind of maintain that. What I'm curious from you, what inspires you? What is the thing that, what are the various inspirations that you have that kind of filter through your artwork, or the things that you create? And I know you have a number of projects that you've talked about, and maybe that you'll reveal that are in the press. Would love to hear kind of what are those inspirations and the ideas and the sparks that created those projects.
Actually, since this is the SuperWorld show, I'd like to at least frame the incredible thing of what we're doing together, because bear with me a couple of minutes, because this takes a little bit of setting up.
Sure.
It's huge. It's a big project.
But this is also truly, it's embedded in a much, much bigger thing, which I think is relative to anyone who enjoys art and makes art, or is in any way sort of associated to that. But even those who don't now think they are into art might come along if they realize this thing, which is that I realized this just a while ago, that when Richard Nixon took out the gold standard from underneath the dollar in 1971, I didn't understand, even for the longest time, I didn't get how profound that was for art as well, how that move reflected on art. Because essentially 2 things happened that I now call fiat art, which is the period we've been in for the past 50 years, is that essentially Warhol started his print factory at around that time. So he started making pop culture moves and printing fancy things for the rich and being too cool for school kind of thing. And that was then taken much further by Jeff Koons and Damien Hirst. And they became bigger and shinier and more expensive and more extravagant and all this kind of thing. And in one way, you could also say quite shallow. art became in the sort of fancy, cool status thing for the wealthy. It wasn't making very profound statements in many ways. And then the flip side of that same fiat currency coin is that early 70s, what happened is that communism got so unpopular that many people who weren't willing to let go of communism as an ideal, they sort of flipped to this postmodern idea that everything is subjective, there's no truth, there's no true north, everything is open to interpretation and this and that. But they kind of kept the Marxist foundation of things and added gender and race and a couple of other things as inclusion and these kind of things into that value foundation. So they made a sort of sleight of hand thing that is now very, very visible in our society. And art was, as a social critique thing, it was pretty much allowed that narrow bandwidth to only express itself with. So the fancy shiny things for the rich and pop culture and the sort of political narrow propaganda has been the bracket that art has been in for the longest of times. And what that means is that body painting and cave painting, which are arguably the oldest forms of art altogether, spirituality, all the churches, temples, mosques, everything from around the world, ancient Egypt, the Enlightenment period in Europe, natural sciences, everything as inspiration for art or love or transcendence, these things that you stand for, Nathan, as well as you, Harish, of course. Art hasn't been able to sort of crush out of the fiat period. And this is why crypto art, to begin with, was such an important movement, and why I distinguish it from NFTs, is that you essentially have an art movement, a horde of artists who came to support this ending of the fiat period of the world, this money printing era. But it also kind of commented on the art. It needed to say something foundationally valuable about society or our way forward, offering solutions as opposed to deconstruction. And it wasn't only fancy things for the rich, it was offering a whole value system of how to see the world. And this hasn't happened in art for the longest of times. And now NFTs essentially is a bit more like MTV 2.0 or something like that. But in one way, it's continuing in many ways the principle of what's going on with the sort of fiat printing from before. So there's a few things that are sort of aligning, and I'm good with anything. Guys, just do whatever it is that is in your heart to do. I'm just representing one point of view that is quite expansive, is that people might have not now understood how profound it is to be in NFTs, because you don't need to ask for anyone's permission to mint an NFT on OpenSea. And no matter what your sort of output is. And this, for me, trying to get on with the legacy world, that meant that I needed to do some applications for government fundings, and they were very much in a certain kind of bracket. And I wanted to talk about spirituality. I wanted to talk about value, monetary innovations, and all those kinds of things. And even though I was very much on board with, all the things that women should be empowered, racism fucking sucks, all of these kinds of things. But if I went and started talking about monetary innovation alone out of all the things that I was into, I was out. And I wasn't going to get any grant whatsoever from any government thing. And I wasn't going to get into any other museums or anything like that. And they just shut me out. So I was like, all right. So as an artist, you don't have to please a government or political ideology anymore. You're free to do something like what we're now doing with SuperWorld, which is essentially that I was so inspired by this guy called John Anthony West, who's a very famous Egyptologist, and he sadly passed away some time ago. But his life's work, and one part was about the Luxor temple. And this structure, if you look at it from above, is built into the shape of a man. And it's essentially, it has the ancient wisdom of the chakra points. And it's the story of how a pharaoh becomes from being born as a young boy or a girl, goes towards the end of their life into transcendence. And the different rooms and like structure of this whole massive complex is a reflection on a human life, how to live well, be integrated into society, and what is your place in cosmos. Because some of those incredibly high and massive pillars actually frame the Milky Way perfectly above you. And these kinds of things, I mean, we don't have a structure like that, anything like it in the modern world. Like the sophistication and the incredible knowledge that they had on stellar movements or sky movements and things like that. We haven't, it blew my mind so much seeing what this structure actually was. And what happened, of course, when SuperWorld came along, I was like, can I buy it? can I buy the Luxor temple now? And like I was on it and lucky enough to get it. So then once we started talking with Rish and Tyler, we realized that how about we try and make a virtual reality version of the Luxor temple and honor its core and the amazing thing that it is, and sort of make a gallery slash an homage to what it can now be presented as in virtual reality, with some of the teachings, but not at all too heavy, intact, but just to showcase that, you know, we could build something like this in the real world as well. We could adopt things that were ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago that we've forgotten and not utilized at all in our art for decades and decades. And we now have this massive meaning crisis. People don't know why they're alive. They're depressed and nihilistic and all these kinds of things. And this sort of wet blanket in a cold weather of being sort of sarcastic about shit. Oh, fuck, grow the fuck up, man. You know, there's a bright, beautiful world around you, even despite the pandemic and the craziness. So that's
why I don't engage in that with people. Like I've had a lot of opportunities even recently, and I just won't do it. Like, I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to be, like you said, snarky, sarcastic, like the art world has typically been. And I think it's cool that you can do a project with the intention and the heart behind it that you actually want to do. You don't have to bow down, like you said, to any kind of political or social influence that the legacy system may want you to bow down to. And that's a beautiful thing. It allows for artists to actually help create a more beautiful world, because we're like, creative people are these are the people that can take utility and beauty and kind of push everything together in a nice way that's palatable for everyone. But it has to be allowable. Like, we have to be allowed to do things. So that's what's cool about Rich. Like lets us kind of do what we want as artists. I don't know. I'm still surprised by kind of the freedom and artistic expression that any of us on Team SuperWorld can kind of get away with. And it's important to set that example, especially in crypto art, because like you said, that's what this was all about to begin with. It's breaking the bonds of the legacy system, viewing the obstacle course more as a playground than any, like, that's the kind of person I am. I like to climb on things. So I see it as more of like a challenge anyway. So it's kind of fun getting this opportunity to create our own kind of our own on-ramp into the mainstream art world if we choose to be a part of it. You know, and that's the important thing. It's about choice and artistic freedom.
Yeah.
Just to say one short thing, if I may, just that the people now think the legacy art world is the last 50 years of fiat art. So that's why I'm expanding so much further with this stuff, because there is so many incredible achievements that the art itself stands for. Why the word art had reverence, even though many people now associate it with a strapped banana on a Miami wall. Yeah. You know, if you just expand out of the fiat period, then I feel we as crypto or NFT artists, we could now embrace the beautiful and incredible, respectable things about what has been incredible human achievement for thousands of years, and bring some of that prestige back into people getting true awe via virtual reality, or you know, being able to express love and good frequency, showing them a whole world that they can be a part of and own and make stuff in. I mean, this is meaningful. This is a life worth living, you know, as far as I can tell.
You can put yourself into that. You can put your life force and your creativity actually into the work if you just like kind of channel it into there as you're going. And it takes a lot to get to that point. It took me like 10 years of actual like physical painting to realize that I wasn't just painting. So it's an evolutionary process too. Like crypto art and NFTs allow people to just go with any kind of style that they're feeling, and they don't have to kind of adhere to their last their last like style that they were using or the thing that they've been known for. Like you can do whatever you want. I'm looking behind you and there's so many different types of like styles of art, but it's all you, you know? And that's the cool thing about this freedom. It's cool. And it's not like you, like you're saying the fiat art world, with the banana taped to the wall and everything. I see a lot of people in NFT world making fun of that, the formality of all that mixed with like just that blah attitude. Like if you see somebody like Twerky Pepe, for instance, making a ton of money off of just, you know, it's like a frog shaking its butt, for instance. But to me, that's making fun of like the banana taped to the wall, because it's saying like, look what you're gonna pay for this. And it's a beautiful thing too. It's like throwing people's own sense of vanity back in their face, and kind of, you know, you're gonna hit them where it hurts most, in their wallet, because that's what they care about. So, and in that one way, it's kind of like joke's on you as the art consumer for being greedy. So that's like the one cool side of it. But it also just gets so gross too. I mean, one thing I don't like that I'm seeing in this space right now, like, and I don't usually have a lot of negative things to say, but I want people to have love and positivity, and it's being taken over by greed a little bit right now, I think, because people are like really pumping NFTs. So I've just seen a lot of people in the last, say, week or two, jumping on the bandwagon, and I'm worried like where that might take us. I think it leads us into some kind of regulation faster, or you know, how do you feel about regulations potentially coming down in the NFT space?
Well, I came into the crypto space like right at the beginning of the previous bull run. So I saw the whole ICO craze. I was confused. I was learning really fast. I was listening to a lot of Andreas Antonopoulos and the Bad Crypto podcast. And I was like, I couldn't sleep for 4 months. My hard drive went on total like mode. And, you know, it was so incredibly exciting. And, you know, part of the story is that I went to the first conference that I ever went to was the January North American Bitcoin conference in Miami. And it was packed, jam full, like 4,500 people or something like that. And Mo was kind enough just to, like, their team sent me an email that if you want to come over, we've got a spot for you and a table to present your art if you want. And I was like, hell yeah, of course I'm in. And made this piece about Miami and sort of tried to make it cute but impactful. So it has a peacock and a Bitcoin thing and whatever. But I also I was a fan of Miami Vice as a kid, of course, and many people don't realize that the skyline of Miami is pretty much built on cocaine. I mean, that's a lot of what's going on there. And now crypto is sort of transforming that infrastructure, and can be an incredibly positive thing. And this foundation of what we're putting together with Khurram Shroff and Ben Leff and a few others that was just got into the news yesterday is an incredibly cool thing, because we're physically starting the foundation in Miami and then likely expanding to Dubai and further from there. But I get to work with that infrastructure and help it transform artistically from my side. And Khurram, of course, I mean, he's pledged 100,000 Bitcoin to the building of the blockchain infrastructure of the whole of Miami. So he's making pretty big splashes, and let's see what that sort of whole thing brings about. But yeah, so the long and the short of it is I presented the art, and I met this one company who were a diamond sponsor at that place, and their founder and CEO put themselves on video saying that they're going to sponsor me $1 million gallery in Kensington in London, and we're going to do a world tour and all these incredible things. And I even, my lady was working 2 jobs like crazy, and she was nearly destroying her health as a, you know, sort of personal trainer or group instructor at the time. And she was super tired and very, very at the end of her rope in a way, working hard for a little money. So I kind of did the cool thing, and I called home, baby, you can quit your job type of thing. We're solid now. And yeah, then the crash came, which was pretty much right after that conference. And then the money disappeared and the company disappeared and all those kinds of things. So I've already seen what it's like to get into something that you don't quite know what an ICO is, but people are throwing money. There's crazy energy. It's super positive, but also, from the seams, you see the scams and you see the craziness. And then, having been through a crash like that, it is feeling very much right now like NFTs are going to be the next ICO. So, but not probably in a similar kind of sense, because the art itself is much more substantial. The revolution is much more substantial because it influences so many different creative people who can output real value into the world. But I would say that, if I was an investor getting into NFTs, some of the points of like, how long has this guy been around? Just one real problem with the whole space right now, as far as I see, which is a problem, is that some of the early guys who came in and birthed the platforms and early whales and things like that, they're incredibly smart people. They're risk takers. They're wealthy people. And they're quite often the smartest guys in the room. And they're power players, and they move fast, and they do all these kinds of things, and they sense something and they're all in and put it together. But quite frankly, most of them don't have the 101 of art. And they're, you can see NFTs as a vehicle to talk about the technology, provide value, do a whole bunch of things. But if you do have an art background, you know what has been done before and what traditionally has held value for a long time, and what will probably be able to sustain the kind of money that is now thrown into the market. I would say like 90% of it is on shaky ground right now. So that's...
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. And I think that's something you said there. If people know their history, yeah, it's important to know what holds value and what doesn't in the art space. And I think we do have a lot of people coming over from more of the traditional investment space who see it as like maybe an investment opportunity, and they're not accounting for that part that you mentioned. Same thing like when you're buying a property. I mean, you're looking for certain things. Like it's sort of what's important to you, but it's also like there's maybe foundational issues with the house that you're looking at too. So sometimes it doesn't matter how much you want something, it's just structurally not there. So,
but also just to say that not to be like a party pooper, quite literally.
Yeah, I don't want to be that way either. I'm just saying,
no,
it's important to take this into account.
What I mean is that it's also crypto. It's very reflective on crypto in such a way that Bitcoin had its first bull cycle. Then it had a bear. Then another bull came. I think NFTs are exactly like that, but I don't know how tightly it will follow the movements of crypto altogether, because this is truly branching out crypto into the outer realms as well. There's many. I'm not going to claim that I understand what's going on more than I have senses and whatever. I don't know what's going to hold value or what's not going to hold value or what's going to happen. I mean, just last year, I suppose, has taught most of us that we don't often have a clue of what's about to happen and these kinds of things. But I think it will follow in that kind of a way, that it will go through this hype cycle and then there will be a correction. But some of those early works that you've now bought for very little, some of them are going to be considered the next new gold standard of art. And this is the future of art, where it's altogether going anyway. But, having been through one sort of crypto cycle crash thing, I tend to be a little cautious. And this is also, I mean, I've been sitting on 350 high resolution museum grade NFTs for 12 years. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time, but I'm not putting my NFTs out there yet before the circle of collectors who truly understand that I've been building sustainable value for a long time. I don't want to sell my NFTs to Moon Boys because they will ruin them. The point of it is not for them to buy something and flip it fast and forget about it and not understand what it is that they're doing, because that would be a great, it's been such a great sacrifice to be here right now, that even though I feel like, Jesus, I should, but no, it's kind of, it's a bit like that.
I know what you mean. And that's also what separates a lot of what people call like a real artist and not. It's like values, there is that weird thing about not wanting your art to go with somebody because you don't like maybe like something they said or a way they presented themselves or something. Like I've turned down a sale or two in my time because maybe I wasn't feeling it, you know, and that's just that's part of it. Like we go on feeling, a lot of us in this space, successful people at least, like we kind of know, like you said, like the whales kind of get that feeling in the room. And none of us are that per se, but a lot of us are around those people a lot and we see how they operate. And we can kind of get a sense of like what's happening here based on what they're doing. And when they're just like going crazy, going for it, I do get a little nervous, I'll be honest. Like the way some of the people that I know are just buying art left and right, it makes me kind of worry for this space in general. But that's what I like about like stuff like SuperWorld is it's less about that and more about just fun and creating cool stuff. And
yeah, what do you think about innovation?
Yeah,
you know, in terms of this space. Yeah, where do you think it's going in terms of what's possible? I mean, you know, one of the things that we're really focused on is empowering creators to, you know, do anything that they want and build anything they want anywhere. And what do you think is coming because we have this new power, because you have an amazing studio, because you have a, you know, a production facility behind you that can get hard copies of that? Like, where is that going in terms of the model? How can we at SuperWorld, for example, you know, empower that? What, you know, what is the future of what we're talking about? I'm curious.
Well, there's a few things that I think, like what I would love to see at some point is that there would be some sort of a SuperWorld headquarters in the physical realm as well, where you would build something like this from SuperWorld. And once you come into that space, then you get to put on the goggles and go into SuperWorld and immerse sort of back and forth.
Like
and
it's Six Flags.
Let's do it. Hey, that's it. Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it in Miami. Let's do it in Miami.
That would be so amazing. Miami's the spot.
Yep.
We can spread a lot of love with a project like that too. That's the other thing about crypto art. Like we can pick whatever soapbox we want to stand on. Like I choose love and tolerance and acceptance, but like anybody can do anything. It's cool that we can just like say, hey, let's create this thing and we can just do what we want here. And give it the value structure that we want it to align with. Like we can just provide that to the product because it's ours. And we just do whatever we feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Crypto art's beautiful, but crypto in general, like I've never met a space where I can meet two cool people like you and actually have like real conversations. But you know, we're still like, we still know like what's going on with finance and the world and spirituality and everything too. Like it's such an interesting mix of people that know a ton of things. Like it's so weird to me how much you guys actually know, like sitting here in a conversation. I always feel like the dumbest guy in the room, to be honest. You were talking about some of these are like the smartest dudes in the room. Like I'm for sure the dumbest guy in most of these rooms. And it's a beautiful place to be, honestly. I love it. So it's just exciting for me.
Let me put it to you this way, because it's a part of that cool and snarky thing is also, it's become maybe a sort of competition of intelligence in a certain kind of way. And in the academic world, many people come across very, very smart, but they're simultaneously absolutely awful people to be around, and their worldview is super depressing. So who's the dumb guy in the room, even if you have a PhD, but you're a miserable person and no one wants to be around you? Or then you saying, well, I'm the dumbest guy in the room and you seem to be having the most fun. So, you know, there's a lot of values that it depends on how you want to look at it and which kind of intelligence, I suppose. But to your point, Trish, earlier as well, and I really want to ask you a couple of questions as well, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
But to begin with, there is a thing that I've been imagining for a couple of years in virtual reality already that would take what we have now quite a lot further as an experience of art altogether. And we actually took a massive step this afternoon towards that dream with a meeting that I had in this studio. And I can't wait to share those news quite soon as well, because it feels like I just made an partnership with an early Apple or an early Tesla with a revolutionary product that they have, and they have the beef to showcase that already, that is the thing of what they've built, and they have a certain reputation for it. And it was such a beautiful moment that, you know, after presenting all of this and saying what the dream was for this guy who's like a rock star, he just said, that's great, we will provide you with this and we will make a partnership. And I was like, I'm a true fanboy of this thing, and I wasn't about to like hide it either. I was very like type of thing. So, but what I wanted to ask you, Rish, also as a part of your journey, I mean, you come from traditional investment and you hang around with all of these high ballers, and your kind of thing is like, how were you able to hold on to your values and your kind of vision of things amongst this thing that probably wasn't before crypto supporting your ideas in the way that crypto probably is?
Yeah, you know, I've always you know, believed in creativity and building and empowering, you know, people of different ideas and cultures and places. I, you know, was born in India. I grew up in the United States, kind of grew up in a family that was very open to different cultures, and so kind of grew up with an understanding that, you know, my you know, surroundings wasn't the only way of kind of being or thinking or feeling, and I was always really curious about that. And that's the reason why I travel and live around the world and different things in my life now, because I kind of always appreciated that. And so, you know, I'd also kind of come from this belief that like everyone should have the ability to do what they want, to be able to experience things regardless of money. You know, like, meaning everyone should have the power to create a studio or create a, you know, their art, or, you know, create a design an airplane, or, you know, whatever. Like it could be something scientific, it could be art, it could be, you know, an idea. Education was always really important to me. I grew up that way. I just come culturally, just learning. And so, you know, the inspiration of SuperWorld really came from these values of, you know, how do you create a way that empowers anyone to do anything, anywhere, with anyone, at any time, in any place, you know, and freedom to do all those things. And so, you know, I think, you know, with my co-founder Max, and, you know, he's an amazing technologist, but, you know, these technologies aren't really the idea. It's really the empowering and being able to express yourself that I think I've always kind of believed in. And so even though I was an investment banker and came from the business world and different, you know, venture capital and all these other things, I've always been an artist myself. You know, I do fashion photography. I love beauty. That's, you know, fashion, just all these art. These things are very, very close to my heart. So, and so that's kind of what's always driven me. So even though I was, you know, wearing a suit and going into a Wall Street bank, like, you know, I was always like, hey Rich, shouldn't you be getting a haircut? You know, like, you know, I was always the rebel. I was in the military, you know, at one point too. So, you know, I was always the rebel. Yeah. I was in the US Navy. And so, you know, but I was always the rebel. So, you know, it's kind of like, I've always had that in my heart, you know, just kind of the creative kind of artist mentality, I guess.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. You're a really beautiful human being too. A lot of people,
Thanks,
I keep
man.
learning so much about you. I'm gonna get emotional right now. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't know how many opportunities you've given people, man. And you're so good to people behind the scenes.
Oh, thanks, man.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, don't be, please.
People need to know how important it is to give people hope and kind of empower people to follow their dream. My dream is just to have a big platform to share love and to kind of show my heart to the world. And Rich has really enabled me to do that in a way that no one else has even come close. he's believed in so many people that I know, and given a lot of people inspiration to just not just keep pushing, but like really take it to the next level. And I'll be eternally grateful that he gave me a chance and that he saw something in me. And, you know, it's opened a lot of doors, and I'm just able to talk to brilliant people. And I've been enlightened so much just because of this whole experience. So I couldn't agree with you more, man. And I totally want to know more about Rich too. That's why next week we're going to do more of a me and him episode, and just getting to know his backstory really good and stuff. So yeah.
Thanks, Nate. Man, you're amazing, and you know, love is the answer, and I think you bring so much happiness to everyone. So and VESA as well. You guys are creating some amazing stuff, and you know, again, I think it's all of us, you know, kind of empowering and showing the world kind of what we can create and enjoying our lives. And you know, I think that it's a community that we're building, and that's really important to us. Is getting people that are aligned with those goals, you know, about expression and beautifying the world with our art and ideas and music and, you know, all of these things. So it's an honor to be able to know you guys and work with you guys, and, you know, to have a platform where we can do that together is super fun, right? I mean, like, thing that drives me is like, it's fun.
Yeah,
you know, I just enjoy it.
We have a team like this where like we can trust that we all have each other's best interests at heart, and kind of like it's funny in some ways. People are like, "What are you actually doing there?" And I'm like, "Well, we're building the Matrix basically, but in a way that's not gonna feed off of you. You know, we're actually gonna add functionality to your life. We're gonna add positivity." And it's cool to be working with people that can build that I can also rely on to stay good people, you know? That's what I think a lot of people like about you both, is that you've both been around the block a little bit, seen a lot of interesting things, met a lot of interesting people, and you're both still you. So that's a beautiful thing. A lot of people, the worst will come out of them after they've seen a little bit of money or success or anything. And it's cool to see people that are actually focused on the true success, which is like spiritual happiness and enlightenment and well-being, kind of that fundamental well-being that people talk about. So,
you know, like for example, I'd say that some people might misunderstand you as like the love is the answer or whatever, that you're all about roses and sort of looking at only the bright side of things. And that's not where you're coming from. You're choosing love despite all the things that life throws at you, and that what makes it significant. And I think for me, what people misunderstand about me often is that at some point there were many people who were put off by me critiquing what was going on, but they might have missed the point, which is that I was critiquing it because I love it and I want to see it thrive, and I want to see it, some things restored that have been lost for a long time, and they're so directly related to our ability to feel love, to our ability to have transcendental experiences, for us to really find meaning in life. And when I see these bananas on these walls, and people just playing their money games at the expense of people being able to have those experiences or feel like those could be still had from art, that's why I was so upset often. That's why my tone in my tweets was like, fuck you, you know, because they were like trashing something beautiful in my eyes. So it wasn't about being negative. It was actually coming from a place of love, but it was maybe
it's tough love.
Sometimes overtly so. I accept responsibility for being a pissed tweeter at times.
But that's okay. I mean, it's very true. Like, love is not all, you know, butterflies and flowers. Like, love is also the thing that can cause a lot of chaos, you know? Like, the other side of love is a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of rejection, betrayal, backstabbing. You know, it's a choice. Like, love is just a substrate. It's a soil that a lot of things can grow in, and it just depends on what you feed that soil, I think. But there's so many different forms of love that can grow from that. Look at a rose bush, you know, it's like the most beautiful thing, but if you just grab it, like, you're going to be sorry. It's going to tear you to pieces. So, and I think it's like a lot of artists. We're all outwardly expressing beauty somehow, whatever form we want it to take. But if you mess with it, like, there's probably going to be some repercussions. And that's like, that's the equal opposite reaction to that bright, you know, that bright side, that beauty, is there is a lot of pain and darkness. But yeah, it's about choice, you know, like, what side of yourself are you going to feed? Like, that's the side that's going to grow, basically. So I just choose the good, but good is subjective, you know, who decides what's good? So I'm starting to learn all that stuff too.
That's an interesting journey that we're about to be on with Brittany Kaiser, with that kind of thing, because
I'm excited.
If you know her life story. Sorry?
I'm excited for you on that. That's a huge guest. So.
No, I've been waiting to meet a person like her for a long time, and to be able to start building something. But essentially, if anyone's seen The Great Hack or The Social Dilemma on Netflix, and the problem of social media and the polarization and data ownership, and you know, the Great Hack opens pretty much by saying that data is now the world's most valuable resource. And she's sort of, her personal story is that she's a young activist in the Obama campaign and political campaigns, and sort of trying to make the world a better place, and a little naive. And she starts to cry when Obama keeps drone bombing. So some things sort of kind of get a little matrix glitchy in a way that not all is as told. And then monetary situation, life situation, she ends up in a right-wing sort of startup type of thing that starts to meddle with the world from another political point of view, and she has to do it for the money, is not compensated for that properly, and it's a crazy ride that she goes on. And then eventually, when she comes out with the information about Facebook that she has in this company, Facebook lost $120 billion in market value that day that she came out. There was 35,000 articles written about her a day, and now there's altogether 5 million articles that have been written about her and her association to Brexit, the Trump campaign, to data ownership, to all of these things. And she advises world governments and does these incredible things of her contribution for us to understand the valuable resource that is our data, how to take ownership of it, and sort of navigate these crazy waters of what was done behind the scenes, so that we're also pissed at one another at this moment in time. Because it's still so weird to me how cancel culture and all of these different kinds of phenomena that have sort of happened, and Q on the other side of people, like the perspective is so skewed in sort of with these algorithm supporting things of how we get into these YouTube rabbit holes and don't necessarily see the counter arguments, and it just sort of tilts you off of kilter. So what we're trying to do is to take her personal story and the bigger story and capture her in body paints and on video, and make these different worlds in virtual reality, as well as sort of now more traditional NFTs on Super Rare or something like that, and tell this story to showcase the revolution of data ownership in NFTs form, but also her story and how that relates to all of us. So art serving this story, trying to give a perspective on things that is something that we haven't necessarily seen before. And it's in the service of all of us to sort of take responsibility of this ownership for ourselves, and how to get the tools and how to do that kind of stuff. So it feels like it's so incredibly rewarding on so many different levels, because she's a brilliant young woman, and there's so much wealth there to turn into art that is actually useful for people. And we're just not used to searching for that kind of thing from art anymore. And that's been the big sort of mountain that I've been trying to climb with art for the past 12 years, and commenting upon these things like origins of religion, of what they have together with one another, what is value, and what can art do at best for us. and how to restore it out of this insult banana sort of phase outside of its very, very small bubble to the larger consciousness. And I think, again, this opportunity to work with Brittany is just that. And we've had a lot of difficulty now trying to even figure out how we can get her into the country, because Finland is sort of shutting down again. The maximum amount of people that can now gather is 6. The borders are next to closed. So if you're coming from the United States, you need a special permit or government invitation or something like that in order for you to enter the country. So quite frankly, this has been a real fucking pain in the ass just to get her into the country. And we're still not sure if we can do that. But we sort of just agreed that if we can't do that, because Texas is opening up, so I might just fly to Texas to do this thing if it becomes impossible to do in Finland, which I was kind of hoping to do it here in the studio. But more than anything, I want to get this project done. So again, it's another mountain to climb, and it's a
I'll come down and see you in Austin, man.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I want to move to Austin. That's kind of top 5 for me. I also like Asheville. I'm only like a few hours from there, but yeah, Austin is incredible. Hopefully you get to do it in your studio, because it's so, that's like the vision. But yeah, if you end up going to Texas instead, let's have a SuperWorld party.
Yeah.
Oh, dope. Yes, I'm in.
Make it worth it. That could get pretty crazy pretty quick with us there, honestly. I like to have a good time, so it would be pretty fun.
Not to dox you guys, but like, are you comfortable in saying where you guys live?
Yeah, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'll even give my address. I don't care.
Don't.
And I'm nomadic, so I think you know this. I every 6 months, kind of pick a different spot. So I'm in the Bay Area now. I was in Austin for about 2 years before that. I was in Bali and Thailand before that, Eastern Europe, Miami Beach, LA, Mexico, Colombia, Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Vietnam, Russia, Ukraine, so all literally New York City, Chicago, all over the world. Yeah.
My man, that is a good
Come to Greensboro, man. Come stay here. Cost of living is very low.
Yeah. No, I'd love to. I have to make it back. I mean, I've been to North Carolina a lot, but not when you've been there. So I want to come and check you out.
We'd be best to meet up in like Asheville or Charlotte.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
I love Charlotte. That's where my family is all really from. So, but I lived in Chicago for a long time. Yeah. I definitely never lived outside the U.S. Like both of you have.
And my last international trip was Helsinki, right? To Slush. That's like before everything got shut down. I was at Slush. So I can't wait to be back there. Next Slush, whenever that is, hopefully this year, maybe.
Yeah,
hey, the both of you, you're more than welcome to come and hang out on the couch, and we'll pop open a bottle of wine and talk about all the amazing things in the world. There's actually in this facility, like I would have maybe, it's all now because it's very late here. It's past, I don't know, maybe it's midnight or something like that.
We'll let you get going soon.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not what it was about. But essentially, I would have shown you around the factory, but it's all sort of blacked out at the moment. But there's like a sauna facility, there's hangout spaces and video projectors, and I think I hate karaoke, but that machine is out there. I'm just gonna go in the other room if you guys are into that. But
Mitch, what's your karaoke song? Like we're about to do karaoke. You're about to go on. What do you pick?
You talking to me?
Yeah. What are you going with?
Oh, I used to
sugar on me.
Yeah, sure. Some Guns N' Roses or some, like I don't know. I like all kinds of stuff. So I like some Kanye West.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Like I have a pretty wide range of musical interests, but I'll go with whatever Masha likes. She's a big karaoke fan, so do a duet with her. That's my wife.
That'd be cool, man. I'd love to see that. I think it'd be cool just in general to get everybody in the factory there. I love factory spaces anyway. They're just kind of unique. Me and my friends used to kind of paint the inside of abandoned buildings and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, right, cool.
Growing up in Chicago area. So
well, I'm trying to reverse ideologically the thing of what Warhol did, as in that, you know, it's housed inside of a factory, but it's in line with true crypto, or even Bitcoin to a degree. That this is not meant to be a place that starts to churn out a massive amount of product and something that doesn't have the love attached to it. So I'm sure along the way will be a temptation of sorts, but money is important. It's never to be disrespected. I learned that the hard way. But still, the core of this place was never about money. It was never that thing. It can the true creativity that happens here, money will follow it, but that's not the priority of why this thing was built. And I've fought terribly hard for that to become a reality. So it's going to be an interesting journey of what we can achieve from here. But this afternoon alone was something that brought a smile to my face for the next week at least, as well as this conversation. So
I'm super happy for you, man. I could tell when you're talking about it that it kind of lights you up. So it's kind of exciting to see an artist that not just that we're working with at SuperWorld, but just in general, an artist that I like and respect. I'm just happy for you, man. So
yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Where can people learn about you? I guess we'll wrap up. You got to go to bed. What's the best place to find you, learn more about what you're up to, and what would you like to leave us with in terms of kind of a message?
Well, I think just to repeat what we opened up with, LARPing with that wizard type of thing, of how these characters or myths, there's one of the first things that really brought me online as a human being was seeing Star Wars as a 5-year-old kid. And essentially, if you know the backstory of Star Wars, that there was this guy called Joseph Campbell, that he went around the world and essentially he gathered all the world's myths into one book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And in this particular case, it's just mostly meant for men originally, because it was the story of how a boy becomes a man is the universal story from all the different continents of what he put into this book. And George Lucas became friends with him. So essentially, he took A Hero with a Thousand Faces and threw it into space with some robots. So that's why it was so massively successful, because these big sort of spiritual institutions like Christianity at the time was sort of, people couldn't find the meaning in it like they maybe used to before. And then Star Wars came as almost like a new religion because of this archetypal thing that was awakened in people's minds about the Force and how to see the world, and the sort of archetypal characters kind of interacting and whatever. So the message of the wizard, as in like that it lives in all of your core, like as in you just awaken that perspective in you, in the sense of how Samuel L. Jackson said it, is that you can't become a superhuman being like you can in a cartoon character kind of world. That's not the point. The point is to see the world through the eyes of possibility, and then going about it, like maybe implementing the structure and tenacity and knowing that you need to be a hero in the story, because you're going to be thrown at so much obstacles and misery and things that are truly going to test you, like you are in a movie. I mean, the movie gets really boring if the hero just sort of waltzes through to the end and goes, I'm the, so that's, it's to treat life that way, maybe. And in my particular case, what that's led to is this conversation with you guys, and I'm super grateful for it. And if people want to find some of my stuff, I mean, I'm fairly addicted to Twitter, it seems, and sometimes not to my own benefit. But
that's how we met. I was just kind of stalking you, and you actually responded. So that's cool.
So
I think we all met on Twitter.
I know. I just like hit people up and they actually respond. I think I get lucky, it sounds like, from talking to people. Yeah, dude. I know that we were both really excited to talk to you, and the feeling's mutual.
Yeah,
you're an incredible person,
man.
Yeah, you've inspired me a lot on my journey so far. Even with some of the way I'm starting to evolve my style a little bit. And I just appreciate everything that you're doing for the community and kind of showing us how to re-envision our vision in a weird way. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Thanks, buddy. You know, really love everything you're doing, and like so excited about our various partnerships and working with you and bringing all the light and love into the world that you're creating. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks to you both, and I'm excited to see your journeys as well and be a part of it in whatever way I can. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for giving me some of your precious time.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, this is the SuperWorld show. Love you guys. Have a good one.
That's it.